So if you want, I will get on with our meditation. So thank you all for coming and giving your energy to this project. And may you all have an interesting experience or experiences today. So let us move our awareness together. Let us be part of one another as we move away from our physical bodies and energetically explore the various astral realms that are available to us. I hope you're all quite comfortable in whatever position you are in, an easy chair, a couch, whatever. And allow your breathing to slow a little bit. And I would ask that you close your eyes because we're not using our physical eyes to see. We are using our inner vision. And call it your imagination if you would like. It's all the same thing. So with that in mind, let us calmly and quietly move on up out of our physical bodies. Let us see that spirit body moving on up out of the chair that you are in, the room that you are in, move on up through the ceiling of that room and continue on up through the roof of whatever building you are in. Allow yourself to float freely through that without attachment to anything. Let us move on up into the area above our communities where we can see and feel the roof lines and tree lines of our community as you allow yourself to experience that in whatever modality you find most comfortable. As we breathe together and prepare to move on, let us remember that a retrieval or a rescue, if you prefer to call it that, is a spirit contact where the spirit requires some kind of assistance. Some kind of assistance to let them move away from their confusion, their sense of being lost, their sense of being not cared for, their sense of disbelief or unworthiness, their 101 reasons for remaining earthbound. As you move toward your first encounter, remember that your guides may be nudging you in a certain direction, one way or the other, and allow yourself to unhook from the memories of yesterday and the expectations and anxieties of tomorrow. Let yourself be in the present moment, the eternal moment. And as you move on to wherever you feel attracted, whatever level of spirit you think you would like to explore, please do so. And do so at your leisure. Do not feel hurried or hastened by anything that I might say. You will definitely get about 15 minutes of silence, after which we will look around and see who's ready to come back. So with that in mind, bon voyage to you all.
Gordon.
Yeah.
I think it's almost time to get everybody back.
Okay. Well, I hope you all had interesting experiences, and I will now remind you to come back carefully and slowly to your body. Bring all your bits and pieces back from whatever journeying you've been doing. And just pull them all in back to your body and let that all settle for a minute or two. And then we'll get to talking. Well, welcome back, everyone. And the stage is open. Anyone who would like to speak, please do so.
Well, I did have a sort of experience, actually, shall I say, and then I've got it over with, as it were.
Sure.
Well, I tried an experiment which wouldn't affect you as I'm muted. As soon as I was muted, I just put some gentle, light classical music on, which I can hear through the television. That helped me, actually. I waited till you finished talking, and with your initial guidance, when you'd finished, I switched it on. And it did really relax me because I didn't even notice it after a while. And fairly straight away, I found myself by a lovely river with a group of swans, which included my own very special swan I knew in this life. He was tremendously helpful to me. I was explained to Dave, actually, in an email after my son passed in 2015, that this lovely swan and his mate, who may still be alive in this world, were the only thing that got me out the door the first year. But the male swan definitely passed. He had an illness. So I was there with him and I was hugging him, which obviously I couldn't do in this life, although he did trust me as much as is possible in this life. And I felt he was shaking the drops of water off his plumage, and I felt the water was immensely healing and pure and crystal clear. I don't know if you came in at that moment, Gordon, but I felt you were visiting me, and I felt a lot of peace as well when I felt that you were possibly looking in on me. But then most unexpectedly, I felt this figure was shuffling along the side of the river. I'm tempted to say it's my imagination, but you'll tell me off if I do. But it seemed to be what you might call a bag lady, a female tramp. She was very dishevelled and filthy clothes, bent over. But I don't think I did anything much. I just persuaded her to follow me along the side of the river. And it fairly rapidly seemed to have a rejuvenating effect on her. And she became more upright and smiling. And then just in the distance, as far as I could make out, I think I must have let her go ahead of me, I could see a lovely, beautiful light forming. And she was practically dancing in the end towards this light. And I was vaguely aware that she was being greeted by her loved ones, and she was full of delight and joy, but I couldn't go any further. It may be a complete load of nonsense, but I thought I'd tell you anyway, because I wasn't expecting to see a bag lady, so perhaps she came from somewhere. But it seemed she was helped just by being in a lovely place by the river, and she was healed sufficiently from obviously a very careworn, hard life here to see the light and go and find her loved ones. So I tell you that for what it's worth. And I think the music I was playing in the background really helped me relax. So thank you very much anyway.
All right. Hey.
Well, thank you for that. That was, as far as I'm concerned, that was a retrieval. I can't think of what else it would be. That's a classic, I'd say, leading
Yeah.
someone toward the lights. That's great. She starts out shuffling and she winds up almost dancing. That's great.
Nice.
Thanks, Julia. That was very inspiring.
I'll do something. I didn't raise my hand, but.
Oh, okay.
And then Adrian, you're after me. This is kind of weird today for me too, because I had a dream that, and I had it all planned out what I was going to tell everybody. And I started, during the meditation, I started reviewing the dream again. I got like more details that I hadn't gotten before. And then I said, well, Gordon sometimes says, if you do one and there's time left over, maybe you can go back and try for another one. So I said, well, why not? So I went back to the very beginning again and remembered what Gordon had said during the meditation about rising up and going through the rafters. And I mean, it was pretty clear this time. It was different than the other times. I went up through the roof, and then all of a sudden I'm looking outside at the white snow that's here in Buffalo. And then the next moment I know, I was looking down and there was no snow anymore, but it was a hilly farm area. And I just get the impression that it was in Denmark someplace. And so I went, next thing I know, there's a lot of visual stuff on this one. And I was down and there was a barn. I remember seeing it was a red barn and kind of hilly. And I walked into the house and all of a sudden it was dark. I came in the light, then it was dark, and I was inside, and it was like a living room, but it was old. It could have been back in the early, maybe 100 years old, or maybe not quite that. And there was not electricity in there, but there was a fire going in a fireplace. And I looked to the side and I saw this, like a teenager girl that was in a chair. And it was just her and me. And then the scene changed again, and there was a family in there where there was a mother and a father and two little kids. And then I somehow talking to it went back to it was just me and the girl and nobody else. And at this point, I could see a little bit more, and the place was kind of a wreck, like nothing had been done in a while with it. And she explained to me that she lived there, and she had fallen down into a well and had drowned when she was a kid. And so I said she knew that she was dead, and I'm presuming that she was a ghost that had hung around that place because there's no one there, because I had another vision of her mother. Well, actually, the dad died in the house there, which makes me think that it was a pretty long time ago. And then I had a vision of his wife, might be in her 40s, and the two kids getting in this old car that looked like something from the 1920s, all like old and beat up, and them taking off. And so I came to the conclusion that this girl was a ghost, and she knew that she was dead. And I started, and then it ended there. I know that I probably could get back into it later and get more out of it, and see if I could make a retrieval out of it or get her to go with me or go to the light, but it ended there. So that's how I'm going to leave it. And if there's more time, I'll tell you about the dream and the other retrieval that I had.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Adrian, you were next.
So I let Loris go first.
Okay.
Ladies first.
Oh, okay. Yeah, one of your hand went went away. Okay, Larice.
Okay. I landed in a church. And it was kind of, you know, I'd say a replica of a church, the church that I grew up in, my family, you know, went to. And I didn't really quite know what I was doing there, because at first I just saw the preacher, and then I saw the congregation, and then I realized that there was the organist was somebody I know that recently passed from here, you know, from this earth. And he had been a musician all of his life, and a lot of it was church music. Now, he never played at that particular church, but they all went to that church that I landed in. And so my understanding of the situation is that they all felt safe and comfortable there. It's like the first place they got to where they felt at home, or, you know. And it didn't seem like there was anything going on except just a regular church service. Like, there wasn't anybody trying to hold sway over anybody else, or, you know, any kind of control. It was just like, yeah, let's all just, you know, have a church service because we're comfortable with that. We like it. And so I got the organist guy's attention, and I said, and he said, "Oh, hi." He said, "You want to play your guitar?" And I said, "Well, I didn't bring it." And then I was talking to him a little bit longer and just asking him a few questions just to sort of hold his attention. And then he stopped and he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm not sure yet, but I have this idea. I think that this is like a way station, and you could go farther. You could go like farther into God's creation and see the magnificence of it if you want to." And he kind of, that confused him, and some of the others too. They were kind of shaking their heads like, "We don't get that. Like, this is what happens. Like, this is what heaven is," or whatever. And I said, "There's nothing wrong with this, but you could go farther if you want to. You could go farther into God's creation and experience it." And a couple of them started to get interested. My friend did, and the preacher was kind of curious, and then there were a couple of congregants who got really upset with me. And they were, just like, "Get out of here and don't come back. Like, just don't mess with this. Like, what do you?" But I just kept talking to the ones that were listening. I said, "Why don't we go?" I said, "If you don't like it, or there's something uncomfortable about it or whatever, there's nothing to stop you from coming back here. There's nothing like that. You could do whatever you want to do, but I just want to show you." And so they went, "Oh, okay, yeah, let's do that. That'd be kind of fun," especially the one that knows me, that, he trusted me. And so the preacher and him and quite a few of the congregation did too. And I took them all up to the park. And as soon as we got there, people started finding people and greeting people, and they were really excited. And I guess some of them had been stuck in that church for a long time. Like my friend hadn't. It'd only been a couple of weeks, but I guess other people had been. And so there's a lot of reunions going on. And my friend had family too that, had been waiting for him and all this stuff. And so I watched that for a while. And then my friend said, what about the others that stayed behind? And I said, well, they wanted to. I mean, they didn't seem very interested in coming with us. And he said, yeah, but I'm concerned about him. Could I go get him? And I said, no, I don't think you should do that yet. You just got here. I'll go see if I can get any more of them to come. So I went back to the place, and it was really, a drab, small thing now, because all that energy had been taken out of it, and what was left of it wasn't very good. And so the place, there were some people left, and they were kind of walking around like they didn't know what to do. And then they saw me, and there was one or two that were, really pissed. And then most of the rest of them were just confused. And I said, hey, you guys want to go where those other guys just went? And see what it's like? I said, you can always come back, and they actually asked me to come back here and bring you guys there. And because of the fact that it was kind of collapsing around them, just becoming a really small, drab thing, replica, they decided it might be a good idea. So I brought the rest of them back up there, and then they started having their reunions and stuff too. So it was kind of an interesting experience.
Well, thanks for that, Larice. That was really interesting. That when you got your friend to go there, and then he said he was concerned about the people that you guys had left behind, and he wanted to go, and you dissuaded him and said, no, you stay here, I'll go. I found that really interesting.
Well, I felt a little bit unsure because he was such a new arrival, that he might not know what to do.
Yes.
When he got back there, he could help them recreate it or something without even realizing what he was doing. And I didn't think that was a very good idea.
Well, it's interesting to me because you approached the place a little shy and not quite sure what to do. But when you moved them on to the park area and you saw them all having their reunions and different things, you were quite strong in your willpower when you said to your friend, no, you stay here, I'll go.
Yeah.
I was just struck by that.
Yeah. Well, when I first got there, I wasn't sure what I was doing there.
Exactly.
Oh, no, a church. Oh, my God.
Yeah, well, like I've said many times in books and different articles and things I've written, people don't just get stuck at casinos and fancy restaurants and nightclubs and play sports events. Religious people get stuck in churches. They go to something that reminds them of where they were most comfortable.
And that's how it felt, exactly how it felt, because he would, he was just so comfortable there. It was like the first place, out of leaving the body that felt comfortable to him, and he just didn't go any farther.
Right. So that's great. There's a lot of that going on, and I've been saying it for years. So it's nice to have someone else discover that. So thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Denise, why don't you go ahead?
Was it Adrian was next? I'll go after Adrian.
Adrian, what do you say?
All right, thanks, Denise. So this time it was a boat rescue. I immediately saw a small old-style boat, and so I got the impression that this man somehow got killed there, or died there somehow. I'm not sure how, but he was on a boat. Well, in his imagination, that's and And I got the sense that he's there. He wasn't as much confused as the other retrievals I did before, but he just had no concept of an afterlife. Like he was there, and he didn't expect it would happen, so he just was on the boat, not sure what's happening. So this time I told him point blank that he's dead, and he was surprised, but he noticed that some things are weird. He wasn't happy that he was dead, but I told him that now he has better options than floating on a boat, and that I brought someone with me, but because he's dead, single and straight, he need to focus on the person to see him. And so I stood up and pretended like someone is behind me and asked him to focus and see. And he was able to see. He was able to see him that way. And then there was another boat came in, and they sailed away. What I noticed so I did a few retrievals now, that most of my cases are isolated, all of them. Like there is one dead person and he's not surrounded by other people. He's somewhere alone. I wonder why that might be.
Interesting point, Adrian. I would suggest that what you're doing is very worthwhile, and maybe it's becoming a bit of a specialty for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. But well, I was going to say, if you'd like to do group situations, if you feel that would be more of an interesting challenge, you can express that intention at the beginning of a meditation and see what happens.
Okay. And I want to share something other.
Sure.
It's not retrieval related, but I read. So I had a few days. I wasn't working last Thursday and Friday, and I read this afterlife report, Friday afterlife report. There was a YouTube video there, which was about how to receive messages from spirit guides. And I started watching it, and it got me down rabbit hole. I watched a few of these videos, and I made an attempt to contact my guide, And after I finished my last video, I stood up, went to the other room where my mother was watching television, and I had a sign which for me is the symbol of spirit contact. That was the first sign I asked many years ago, and I received it then. And it's a white elephant. So I went in the room, and on the screen, there was a guy, and he had a whole stack of white elephants on the screen. He was showing, like, this is white elephant, and it was this porcelain white elephants all over. He was showing them on them. And I was just making an attempt making contact with my spirit guides. I cannot believe it. This is obvious that this is a sign. This just cannot be a coincidence. So that was the first thing. And the next day, I received an email from Vicky Auklin, you know her. And she was meditating, and someone came to her in her meditation. And she has good perception abilities. And she said it was my spirit guide who came to her in her meditation. And it was the first time for her that someone else guide came to her. Like sometimes she talked a few times with dead people, but this was the first time that someone else guide came to her, and she sent me the message that came. It's an entire page. I printed it out. I look at it, and this message deeply resonated with me. Like it's unbelievable, and it's after my contact attempt, day after. I'm still coming to terms with all what happened with this.
That's fantastic, Adrian.
So, Adrian, you were surprised that a friend of yours, an email buddy, had a contact with your spirit guide and then told you about it. Am I clear on that?
Yes.
Well, the reason I'm asking to be sure, Adrian, is the very same thing happened to me 2 days ago. I got an email from a good friend, spiritual friend, not part of this group, but she said, Gordon, I had this amazing contact with your spirit guide. And she was just doing her normal morning meditation, she said, and my spirit guide appeared to her very vividly and gave her a message for me, which she then typed up into an email, like eight or 10 lines, and sent it to me. And I won't go into details, but I was amazed that this had happened.
Holy shit!
Amazed. Yeah.
This is a thread. I mean, it cannot be a coincidence that I receive, you receive. It's like an additional, confirmation.
Yeah. I wasn't planning on mentioning it because it is kind of personal. And I said to my friend, this is amazing. I can't believe that you would see my spirit guide. This is somebody that knows me through email, but she lives hundreds and hundreds of miles away. We don't socialize. And so fascinating. And here you have the same thing. My goodness.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Thank you, Adrian.
Yeah.
If I could just interject for a second here, Adrian, I saw a white orb come down into your heart from on the screen. Came in from the right hand, or I guess it'd be my right hand side or whatever, and came right down the side of your screen there, and it was a little white orb, and he was heading right for your heart. Did anybody else see that?
I'm feeling.
I saw.
I'm feeling it, and I'm getting goosebumps all over. Like when you're talking and Gord was speaking. This is unbelievable. And not just that, but the message is truly so deeply resonating. It's so appropriate for what's going on that, and she didn't know anything. Like we haven't spoken in 2 months.
Adrian, what can you share? Kind of a couple of details of the message, or is it too personal to say?
Well, maybe I will say, but it's just very personal. But
just make it generalities.
Okay, so in the last few months, I was thinking about how to go forward with my life, a new path, and I was visualizing it, thinking, like polishing it, and it was a constant thing, and the message was regarding that.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
Thanks,
and
Adrian.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah,
that's fine. Thank you for sharing that. Really interesting. Denise, are you ready? Denise?
Hey, oh yeah, sorry. I had to unmute and change the volume on my thing.
Okay.
I lost you guys. Okay. Mine was interesting, and I have a question for Gordon on. Is when I got above my house, got above my community, I've relocated to Sarasota. And I saw, and it actually brought me to where my son went fishing today and caught like 5 rainbow speckled trout or something. And it kind of brought me to the spot where he was at, which I thought was kind of interesting. But then I found myself above my neighborhood that I just moved from in Chicago. And I lived there for over 50 years. it was a neighborhood that was shaped in the figure 8, and there was only one way in and one way out. It was called Friars Cove Subdivision. And a group of people got together and moved into this neighborhood and built this lodge, and there was a membership involved or whatever. And obviously, I think we were the 6th or 7th person to move into the neighborhood. We became members, blah, 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 blah. So, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of this neighborhood. Everybody was friends. Everybody knew everybody. There was a swim team. We were all in swim team together, whatever, very close, tight-knit community. So they bring me there. Well, then the next thing that happened, and I'm not sure if it was a visitation or if this person is lingering, who came in, and right now I'm getting the goosebumps, and I got the goosebumps when it happened. There was a boy in the neighborhood. The family's name was Leakas's, and they had 2 daughters and 4 boys, and one of the boys was mentally challenged. I believe it was like maybe cerebral palsy or something like that. I know he was in a wheelchair or whatever. He ended up dying, you know what I mean? He ended up dying, but he lived quite a few years, and I always kind of remembered him. He came into me, but when he came into me, he felt more like he wanted to be a guide for this, but I'm not sure. What came in through the message, and maybe you can help me figure it out, is, I'm studying to be a physical medium, and I can do, I do readings, and I've been being nudged, I've been being reached out to by a lot of the deceased members from this neighborhood that I grew up in. And I'm getting the goosebumps as I say it, wanting me to reach out to their children, because I know their children and I know a lot of their histories. And it's an interesting neighborhood because there's a lot of tragedy, and I even felt a dark energy, like there was a murder or something, like there was somebody lingering. But anyways, the point of it is he's there, and they're nudging me to do this. And the other message that kind of came through is like they're kind of watching over the neighborhood, and like now that the neighborhood has produced, although produced isn't the right word, you know what I mean, has evolved, a medium has evolved out of this subdivision. I'm being nudged to kind of be like a doorkeeper or gatekeeper. They want me to reach out and let the neighborhood know, because there is a chain, there's an email chain that I belong to, that anybody who ever lived in this neighborhood gets this email. And, and they're nudging me that they want me to kind of send out an email to everybody what I've evolved to, and that if anybody's interested, reach out to me. Because I know, Tom Morris says, I know Diana, I know her son went play football with my son. I'm getting the goosebumps. I know Tom wants to talk to Diana, and I think Diana would be receptive, but I've never done this. I don't do it professionally, so I'm holding back. But I get the impression that there's a couple of souls that are lingering there. And there's even a murder, because they want me to talk to my mom about something. And they want me to go back to the year that Friars Cove, the lot, was incorporated. They want me to send healing to it because there's a lot of tragedy there. And it's like, I get the feeling that they want to move on, and not necessarily, like they want to evolve somewhere different or something, and they want to know that somebody's going to watch over. Does any of this make any sense? Does that make sense to you? And that's kind of where it left is I in order to for these people to not have to be the overseer, so to speak, I would have to reach out. So it wasn't like an instant thing, but it felt like a connection. It felt like a communication. It felt like something that they want me to do. And, does that make any sense to you at all? Or am I just rambling?
No, it makes sense.
Oh, it definitely makes sense to me, Denise. So let me just be clear. You just moved to Florida, but lived for many years in this neighborhood in Chicago. Is that right?
Yeah, over 50 years. My parents still live there. I left the neighborhood for a couple of years, but moved back. My sister lived there. Over 25 of the parents that originally had homes there, the children bought the homes from the parents, and like over
Yes,
25
yes.
kids that I went to school with and grew up with
Right.
now live there. It's a very interesting community. Very interesting community. Yeah.
So you said you're training yourself to be a medium, is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So now you're feeling requests from people in Chicago to link up with
Right.
other members in their family.
Yes. They want me
And
to reach out to their children.
the requests you're getting are from people that are alive, but want you to connect them with their deceased loved ones.
Okay.
Is that right?
No, it's the deceased loved ones, like Tom Morris. It's like Diana's father who's in spirit. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
I see. Okay, the deceased are getting in touch with you
Right.
and wanting you to tell their people back in Chicago that they're fine, they're doing okay, that sort of a thing.
Right. They want me to let the neighborhood, this neighborhood of like 169 houses. They want me to let the neighborhood know that I am a medium and a healer. And they want me to put the word out that if there's anybody interested in getting in touch with any of their family members, please reach out to me.
So are you resisting that suggestion? You'd rather not do it, or are you okay with that?
Well, I'm kind of okay with it. I can't right now. I'm going through a divorce that has dragged out 4 years, that people keep dying, and it's been continued to February, and they're using my mediumship against me. I'm a member of Sarasota Center of Light. They're trying to say it's a cult. You know what I mean? And it's a Spanish judge, and I believe he's Catholic. So I have to be very, I have been silenced for 4 years. I don't go on social media. Nobody knows this about me. It's something that's come out of the whole divorce and trauma that I had as a child in this neighborhood. I was abused in this neighborhood. So there's healing and all, you know what I mean? All kinds of stuff. But yeah, it's the deceased members reaching out to me.
Okay, so I see now the full complexity of the situation, and I can see why you would be resisting this request because of tarnishing your reputation in this divorce situation. I understand that, and I sympathize, and I'm not sure I have any really good advice because it's a very complicated situation.
Yeah. But I guess the question is was it a visitation from David, or do you think David is one of these souls that I got the impression is over the overseers of the neighborhood? You know what I mean? That are holding.
It sounds to me like he's appointed himself the overseer of the neighborhood.
Okay.
Whether he actually is or not, I don't know, but he's put himself in that role and wants you to help out.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is, like I said, he was a challenge. He was born that way, so he was, you know what I mean? He was like either it was like some type of cerebral palsy, or so, he was trapped in his own mind. So no, it certainly makes sense. You know what I mean? To me, it feels right that I could see him, wanting that role. You know what I mean? It just fits, I guess I could say. So, okay.
Right. Okay, well, I wish you well with that situation. I see it's very complex.
Well, yeah. It's almost, over unless nobody else dies, but trial picks up again in February of 2025, and then the judge needs 90 days to rule on it. So we're looking at it, another 6 months or whatever, but hopefully that's over.
Okay, well, maybe you tell your friend that's visiting in the visitation that he has to be patient, that you'd like to do this, but you can't do it right away.
Right. And I have been. It's interesting that you said that, because that is what I've been saying to them, and I've been letting spirit know. I'm resisting it, but it's because I have no choice. If I had a choice, I would be. So I'm ready. I just can't yet. I promise you. So I do send that message out to them that it's coming. You know what I mean? it's
Uh-huh.
coming. I just have to, get past this. So, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks.
Does anybody else have anything that they want to present?
I will. I'll go. I had
Mark,
to write
yeah,
it.
hi.
Sorry. Hi, Gordon. How are you?
We're doing just fine.
I had to write mine down because there seemed to be a lot to it. But the first thing that happened when you were telling us about the beginning or whatever of the meditation, I felt myself shrink inside. I've never felt that before. I felt myself shrink inside. I was shrinking, shrinking, and then I shot up through the roof. I saw the roof, the neighborhood in a different direction this time, so that I thought was good. And I landed inside a corral in a small farm. It's funny, David, that you mentioned yours was a farm, or mine was a farm too, and I was inside a corral looking out into this lovely little barn that had been bombed. And inside I could see a pinto horse. He was very clear and was just kind of looking at me, so I knew he was still alive. And then as I walked out, outside of the corral, I saw a 20-year-old young man who had very short brown hair, blue eyes, I believe, and was wearing a navy and gray shirt that was really tattered and torn, and jeans. And he had with him a black stallion, a beautiful black stallion. And he had his arm around the stallion. And when I came over to him, he thought I was going to take his horse. And I said, no, I'm not here to take your horse. He's your horse. He's not mine. I'm here to take you into your next journey. And he said, he said he was very unsure about what journey, what are you talking about? So I don't think he had realized that he had transitioned. So I told him that he had transitioned. And then the horse, I got a really interesting feeling from the horse that the horse was all knowing. He was not a horse. He was something higher. He had a higher spiritual feeling to himself. He was all knowing. He was cognizance, I think it is, when you just know something. And he was unafraid. He was unafraid. And so the boy was holding, had his arm around the horse and was holding the horse, and the horse was starting to move forward. And so I took them a few steps away from the barn, and I brought in an oval portal, which was white with rainbow speckles in it. And then it opened up. It was greater, it was bigger. And the horse knew what it was, and the horse knew what was on the other side. And so the horse started to move towards it. And the young man was afraid. He was scared. He was holding on to the horse. And I told him, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. He's here to walk you through and to a new journey, And you will find it's wonderful over there. It's lovely. And I don't think he realized that he had died, even though I said, you have transitioned. I don't think he fully understood what that meant. I didn't want to say you died, because I felt for me that would be a shock to him, and he wouldn't be able to comprehend that. So then they both went through this portal, and as they went, there was a flash of lightning around it, a lot of flash of light and energy surrounding them both. They walked in and they disappeared. And I got very teary-eyed afterwards. And that was it. Because there is so much love between the two of them.
Yes, I understand. Thank you for that, Mark.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Thank
Yeah, before we go on here, I just want to tell Stanley that Stanley, if you have to go, because I know you have at certain times you got to take your wife. Just it's fine just to end your part of it, and go ahead and I'll finish up the meeting.
It's okay at the moment, David, because I've got 3/4 of an hour before they finish talking downstairs. So
okay,
there should be enough time.
All right, that's good.
Okay, great. So is there anyone else who would like to contribute something? No?
I was rather hoping that I might, for a change, be able to say something, but I'm afraid I just could not manage getting away again tonight.
Really? Okay, well, don't lose hope.
Well, no.
Turn will come.
What I will say is that, as I reported to Wendy and the group on Sunday, I don't know whether either you or Gordon were there, but
no, I wasn't there, Stanley.
Last week, I think it was last Thursday, I was sitting up here and I was thinking about the coming meeting, this one, and I thought, I'm going to see if I can get away. Now, I think you all know that I've been attempting meditation for the last 30 odd years. And I've had 3 or 4 events in that time, very well spaced. Well, it turned out last Thursday, I tried a different method, which I tried to repeat tonight, but I just didn't get the same sort of results. But last Thursday, within a few seconds of finishing the breathing exercise and then settling, I suddenly found myself in complete darkness. In other words, I mean, I was eyes shut and everything, but I could still see the dim light there, but all that disappeared. And I suddenly found myself seeing the night sky, only very small area. And a few seconds of that, and it suddenly started expanding. An absolutely marvelous sight. One of the guys that was there, obviously well used to this sort of thing, said that was, very good. A good sighting, and it was obviously a wondrous view. It certainly was to me. But anyway, I was hoping that I might have been able to have got away again, but not to be tonight, unfortunately, again.
Well, that's pretty fascinating, Stanley. Well, you were meditating in a room by yourself, is that right?
Yes, yeah.
And you, the darkness, and then it opened up to the night sky, and then
it was. I can sort of start. It started off with, I don't know, something about the size of a foolscap page.
Yeah.
A few seconds, and then all of a sudden it just started magnifying and just disappeared till you couldn't see it. But it was a wondrous sight. Absolutely amazing.
And in your first description there, you said one of the guys said, "That's pretty good," or something. Who were you referring to?
I can't remember his name now.
Wait a minute.
I'll have to go back and look at the recording.
But you were meditating by yourself, am I right?
Last Thursday, yes. Yep, that's right.
So who's one of the guys? Who's that?
Oh, on the meeting on Sunday.
Oh, the meeting. Oh, sorry. Okay, I got things mixed up. Thank you. Got it.
Yeah.
Well, still it's pretty, when people speak of their out of body experiences when they're projected into the night sky with all the stars, they're almost overcome with this inability to describe it.
Well, it was absolutely amazing. I mean, as soon as I saw it doing that, I knew that it was the sky and that whatever it was the universe in front of me.
Right.
Amazing.
Well, that's a brief out of body projection as far as I'm concerned.
Well, that's right. And as I said, I was rather trying to get the same sort of thing and try and use it to go further.
Yes, well, I think you'll be successful another time. I'm pretty sure you will.
Hope so. Yep.
So, well, anyway, thanks for that. We haven't had a vision of the night sky, and in all the weeks we've been talking about that, it's the first time we've heard that, I think.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely amazing.
Great. Wonderful stuff.
Yeah, congratulations, Stanley. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, me too.
Julia, do you have a comment or
just wanted to respond to that. That's lovely, Stanley. And if I were you, I wouldn't necessarily worry about having an out-of-body experience here. It doesn't matter particularly that you have it here. I would think perhaps your way forward is when you've got a quiet, convenient moment between meetings to settle down without any pressure as such and try and experience something similar. And then you can simply report it to us here. So you don't necessarily have to have the out-of-body experience here. You can have it at your own convenience, as it were.
Yes.
And we'll be very interested to hear. But that's lovely. And I'm really pleased for you. And I wish you many more.
Thank you. Yep. That's basically why I tried it then, just in case. So I know it has worked once or twice, so I'm trying again.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, if no one else has got anything else to add at the moment, I would like to give you a brief description of what happened to me today. After we finished our induction, or I finished it, and we went into silence, my first thought was, okay, well, what am I going to do? And I'm kind of puttering around wondering what will happen next. And I sort of get this telepathic nudge from I assumed it was a guide. And he said, Gord, I've got a bunch of people for you here. And I look around and there's a group of about 8 to 10 people that this guide has gathered and wants me to deal with them. And I was astonished. I'd never happened before that I can recall. And I started looking at them and I can tell he's sort of gathered them up. They're all earthbounds of one kind or another. And he's somehow convinced them to come as a group to me by, I don't know, selling me as some kind of great guide. I don't know. Anyway, they're all standing there kind of expectantly and wondering who the heck's this guy. And, they've all got different thoughts. They're not all the same type of person or got the same attitudes or whatever. They're all kind of fairly recently dead. Oh, I shouldn't say that. They're definitely dead, earthbound in some way for a variety of reasons, ignorance, whatever reasons these people have. Sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's resentment, sometimes it's guilt, whatever it is. So I'm looking at them thinking, okay, what am I going to do here? I really was puzzled because the guide sort of threw me by just sort of, here, I brought these guys for you. And when I say guys, it was a mixed group. It wasn't just men, it was men and women. And so I sort of address them and try to figure out if there's a common denominator. And no, there wasn't really. They didn't all die in the same place. It wasn't a war zone explosion or a fire or anything. They were all from all over the place. And when I say all over the place, I don't know if they were from other parts of the world. I think they might have been from my part of Canada, but I didn't really stop to ask. And it's very diverse here. So, dead people could be, Chinese people that speak Mandarin, or they could be Polish people that speak Polish. We've got, people from the Middle East that speak Arabian. It's all kinds of mixtures here in the Toronto area. So I sort of try to interact with them, and I get different sort of answers. Some are ready to move on, or some are like, well, what can you do for us? A little sort of impatient and distrusting. And other people, it's kind of, yeah, I'm ready to go. Where are we going? Kind of excited, And so I'm trying. So I sort of say to them, well, I'm going to take you to a place where you'll be comfortable. We call them a reception center on the astral plane. And it's a place where you can sit down and relax and, kind of have a cup of tea and chit chat, or, play some games, or, so there's all kinds of stuff to do there. And I managed to sell it to them, which I was surprised, because I thought, well, they've all got different desires. They're not all the same type of person. So I, as you've seen me describe in some of my chapters in the book, I throw a protective bubble around them. And that's not something that they see. I just tell them to stand there and we'll move on. And then we change dimensions, and we're in front of this rather nice looking reception center. And as you probably know, they set these things up so that almost everybody finds something attractive about them. They're like I don't know what to describe, a small country hotel, without being too fancy or elaborate. It's the sort of setup where people will go, oh, that's pretty nice. But not so that, like, oh man, that's an incredible hotel. I haven't got money for a 5-star hotel. You want to they pitch it so that it kind of appeals to everybody. And we're walking towards, it's in a country setting, and there's gardens out front, and there's people on a patio, sipping tea and eating scones and chattering and laughing. And I see on another part of the patio, there's 2 guys playing chess. And I can see kind of inside the building. God knows how I could do that, because we're outside and we're walking toward it. It's a very friendly place, and people are coming out to meet us and different things and saying, hi, how you doing? And, this kind of stuff. And I can see in the building, and sure enough, there's a room with a big flat screen TV, and there's a few guys watching a sports game, just as intently as they would here on Earth. And, I think it was hockey, but I'm not sure. But it was just interesting to see how these probably recently dead people, and some of my people might join them, sitting in a lounge room watching a sports game, and quite intently, like really enjoying it. So, again, it was just a vision for me anyway of how cleverly these reception centers are set up for, different types of people in different types of situations. The ones in the war zones are different again. They're more set up like, so what people might expect of, nice tents and soup kitchens, and just the stuff that might make those kind of people feel comfortable. But this was much more sort of, what might you say, bourgeois, middle class? I don't know what you'd say exactly, but I think you get the general picture. So that was an unusual experience for me. I haven't ever been presented with, hey, Gord, we got 10 people for you. I might go to a war zone and find 10 people, but this was the first time that I can recall that somebody appeared like almost right beside me and said, oh, I've got some people for you here. So anyway, there you go. That's my little story.
Gordon, why didn't you just wave your hand and let that gold light come through like you did in the last episode?
I know. I
just send them away.
I just didn't, obviously that was even weirder than this. This was slightly more conventional. And, okay. But having the guy appear, I don't even know, was it a guy? It was a guide, and hey, I've got some people for you here. Sort of like they were all lost and he brought them to the train station and I was supposed to put them on a train and get them somewhere. And that's pretty much what happened. Anyway, thanks for listening. That was interesting for me.
It just shows you that you never stay in the same place. You keep growing at this type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said to Adrian, I'm still amazed that this old friend of mine sent me an email 2 days ago. Gord, I met your spirit guide and I've got a message for you. I mean, that never happened before either. So
yeah, I also want to say that I said it, but my mind is still blown from all of it.
Yeah, me too.
And this is the second time that I get some type of confirmation through this group. First, it happened with David, with the lady who hanged herself.
Oh,
and
yes,
this is the
right.
And this is the second time that you had the same thing happen to you as me.
I know. It's amazing, isn't it?
It makes it all more real to me. Like in the beginning, it was a bit, nebulous, but after all of this, it's hard to deny this is happening.
Oh, Adrian, by the way, because we both contribute to Reality Unmasked website, and that's kind of how we got to know each other a little bit.
Yes.
Well, it was Vicky that runs that site that emailed me about my guide.
Really?
Yes. No, I mean, obviously, I've been putting stuff up on that site for a long while, so Vicky and I have interacted many, many times. But I think she was just as surprised as I was that my guide would appear to her.
Well, yeah, then it was same with me. It was her, Vicky.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. She's
so she's on fire. First,
yeah, I think
she
so.
Said, first it was with me, I think, because they said it was the first time for her. So,
oh,
good.
Wow.
Well, I'm glad I mentioned that. I didn't know that it would be the same, but well, interesting. Ha!
Has anybody got anything else they want to say? If not, we're going to be meeting again on the second, Wednesday, December 18th. Not next week, but the week after, same time. It'll show up in the
December the 18th.
So I think we had a great session today. I felt like Julia a little bit when I had mine. That in the past I've had these and I think, you're just making this up. It can't be true. And today, after you guys, Gordon and Margaret, gave us some more confidence in it, I thought, well, I think this is happening. And it was at the perfect time for me and for Julia. So I thank you both. And anybody else that contributed to it.
Our pleasure. My goodness. Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks to everybody. That was a really lively session. Thanks to everybody. You all had interesting experiences. And you might think, oh, Gord must get a little bored with this. Well, no, I don't, actually. I never seem to get bored with this stuff. It's always interesting. And it's hardly ever the same thing twice.
There's always surprises every time.
Yeah, you bet.
Adrian's surprise.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was a little sad that Eric didn't join us today, David, because he's quite open about his contact with extraterrestrial beings in the Council of Nine. And since he hadn't met Marg before, I was kind of going to say to him, hey, Eric, guess what? Marg and I used to be in a UFO discussion group 30 years ago where at least one, I wonder if Marg remembers this, at least we had one guest come and visit. This was a physical plane discussion group. And we had at least one guy come and visit us who told us that one of his roles, he was a physical man living in Toronto, to set up, how can I put it, paperwork, legal paperwork, passports, work permits, you name it, driving licenses for extraterrestrials that wanted to live as human beings in our neighborhood.
I
You
don't
remember that, Mark?
No, I don't.
Oh, well, no, it's possible
That's good.
I was at that meeting and you weren't at that meeting.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. There was
but
some I didn't make. Yeah.
He was quite a character. I mean, I'm not saying he was wild and crazy, but the way he spoke about these sort of things was so matter of fact and normal. And I'm trying to figure out the mechanics of how do you manifest a passport for an alien that's living here under an assumed name. Like, how do you do that? But he said he was one of the things he did, and
Wow.
he knew it was kind of slightly fraudulent, but he felt it was in a good cause, you know.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was keen to tell that to Eric, but he's not here today, so maybe another time.
Yeah,
Sure.
right.
Sure. That's funny.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay, so we'll see you all in a couple weeks.
Okay, bye everyone. Thanks.
Bye.